Hello everybody and welcome to Dev's Reviews. Today we've got the Volkswagen Polo 6R, aka the Mark V Polo with us today. This car is my first car and we'll be giving it a review. It is the R-Line and this car was produced from the years 2009 to 2014 before Volkswagen facelifted the Polo, which we know as the 6C. This car has a lot of styling upgrades compared to the normal Polo and a bit more power. So make sure to sit back, relax and enjoy the review. Here we go. So, the styling upgrades in question, you may ask. Well, first styling upgrade you have are the 16-inch alloy wheels in a lovely chrome finish. As you can see, it is a very nice sporty flair to the car and definitely does add a lot more aggression to the car. And yes, it's a simple thing, but again, simple things do mean a lot in the bigger picture of things. Secondly, you have a lovely character line from the front all the way to the rear of the vehicle, which does make the car look very stanced and very aggressive, and again it just adds another thing to look at and another bit of beauty to the car. Again, you have more lower character lines and you have flared wheel arches at the front and also at the rear. We'll get to that in a minute. You also have these nice side skirts. A common issue with these side skirts is that you do get a lot of dirt build up, thus resulting in the tearing on them at the front, but you can easily get them stuck back on, or you can alternatively order new side skirts for your Polo. I believe they have fixed this issue on the facelift model, but be careful if you get a pre-facelift, these are a common issue. Now, you also get coloured mirror covers. Unlike the regular Polo, which you get the same grey on the side like here, you do get coloured mirror covers on the Polo R-Line and above, which does also include the GTI. You also get privacy glass on the rear as standard, and lovely metallic black pillars. Same for the rear bit, you get a lovely metallic black pillar as well, and 16-inch rear alloys as well. In addition, I will add one more thing on the performance front of it. You do get the same brakes as the Volkswagen Polo GTI, except that the calipers are not painted red and they do not feature GTI writing. Other than that, we'll now move to the rear end and we'll work around to the front at the end. Now, moving on to the rear of the vehicle, you do get a few extra stealthy styling upgrades that are kind of hard to tell apart when you look at it compared to regular Polo traffic, but when you get one side by side you can notice it. Firstly, you get a lovely imitation roof spoiler, and you can tell because it's just very plasticky and it does stick up very, very discreetly. As well, if you look at the tail light at the top, you can also see there is a lot of sunkenness due to the spoiler, which means it is a roof spoiler and not just bodywork. In addition, you also get an imitation rear splitter, and you do get a real exhaust, and I'm now going to show you something else. We have the Dev Reviews stick of honesty here, and we are now going to stick it into the exhaust to prove to you they are 100% real. For a hatchback that's meant to be good for a first car, that is amazing. You don't even see Mercedes having that, and they've got fake exhaust on their AMG line cars. Obviously, a bit of a shame, but that is 1-0 to the Polo, I guess. You also do get a really massive rear bumper, but that is also on all Polos. But with the imitation rear splitter, it really does add a sense of aggressiveness and a sense of sportiness. You also do get a nice look of the car from the rear. It really does look nice. And at the end, I will be getting my cameraman to do some nice cinematic shots of the car. So if you want to have a look at that, please stay tuned and we'll show you that in a minute. You can also skip to the chapter for it if you have a look at the chapters. And yeah, other than that, I will leave my cameraman's Instagram in the bio, and yeah, we'll now move on to the front of the car. The continuous aggression and R-Line theme carries on towards the front of the vehicle. Firstly, you've got these lovely aggressive looking headlights which are available in standard Polos, but only on the higher spec levels of them. You also get front fog lights as standard on the R-Line, and you also get a lovely imitation front splitter. You get vertical slats on the lower grille, and same for the upper grille, but on the upper grille you've got a bit of chrome accentation on there, and a lot of piano black as well, which I really love. You also get an R-Line emblem, which is really nice and just adds to that sporty flair, and you can show your friends that you've got an R-Line over a regular Polo, if you're like myself. In addition, on the Volkswagen badge you've also got these lovely little honeycomb lattices inside, and it basically adds to the sportiness of the vehicle because you can see them on Golf GTIs and Polo GTIs. So it's very nice, bit of attention to detail on the R-Line. Moving on to the other side, you can see there is a lovely little character line going from the top of the A-pillar all the way down to where the headlight joins the grille. In addition, you won't see it now, but the side character line can also be linked towards the headlight and then also linked towards there. So these two character lines meet, and it really does add a very nice look to the front of the car. Now we'll show you the cinematic shots of the vehicle, and you can see the whole Polo R-Line in its beauty. So, we're now going to look at the engine, as I've got a bit of technical data for you geeks like me, and if you're interested to find out, don't skip this chapter. Let's go and open the bonnet. Bonnet pull is conveniently located on the driver's side, so good for us UK residents. Now towards the bonnet, let's open it up. Got a lovely bonnet stick, because for this price range you are going to get a stick instead of a strut, but that's expected. Pop it in there and boom. Here you have the 1.2 litre TSI petrol engine. Now, compared to the standard Polo, this has one extra cylinder and a turbocharger. Now, the standard Polo comes with a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder naturally aspirated engine, and you can also get a 1 litre 3-pot naturally aspirated engine too. This one's got the 4-pot and a turbocharger bolted onto it, as well as it producing 105 horsepower delivered to the front wheels by a 6-speed manual gearbox. This car really is a pocket rocket for a first car, and is very fun to drive, which I'll show you in the next part when we take it out on a road test. As you can see, all your standard stuff under the engine bay, and a lot of shared Volkswagen parts. Speaking of shared Volkswagen parts, and speaking of platforms actually, this car shares a platform with the Audi A1, the Seat Ibiza, and the Skoda Fabia. So if you don't like this flavour of Polo, you can get an Audi A1, an Ibiza, or a Fabia from all of the VW brand cars that are part of this platform. So if you don't like any of the other cars, you can just pick your favourite flavour out of the range. And if you get a Skoda Fabia Monte Carlo, it has the same engine as this, and it's basically a Polo R-Line just reskinned. The only thing I want to warn you about is if you do go for a Skoda or a Seat, because it's lower down in the parts bin range, you will get the parts from the older era of Volkswagen and Audi cars. So personally, I'd recommend either an A1 or a Polo to get the more up-to-date parts. Other than that, we will now head into the interior, and I'll quickly close this bonnet, and then we'll go through the practicality and comfort features of this car. I'll see you in the cabin. So, heading into the interior of the Polo, it is very cosy in here, I must say, but at the same time there is a good use of space on the interior. Firstly, I'd like to point out the main focus of the cabin is around the driver. If you look at this display here, it is angled towards the driver, and ever since the original R8, this design trend has been going on throughout VW Audi group cars as of recently. But since Volkswagen gets the higher end of the parts bin, you do see the earlier forms of this design language coming into play. Usually for Seats and Skodas, you'll see them come around 2016 to 2018, you'll see the more driver-focused cabins. But with VW, 2009, this car, and also the Mark 7 Golf in 2012 got this as well. So you do get it in VWs earlier on. With that aside, you get a lovely chunky sports steering wheel with a flat bottom, which does look very gorgeous in my opinion, and does look like something out of an old Mercedes. But fear not, this is really nice for an R-Line car, and compared to the rubber steering wheel on the standard Polo, you do get a nicer feel to it because you are touching leather instead of rubber. And yes, this is all genuine leather. Perforation on the top and bottom as well adds to the sportiness, and it's hand stitched too. Your 6-speed manual has also got leather on the gear knob as well, and it has a more dynamic look compared to the regular Polo, and it's a lot shorter than the Polo's standard shifter. Continue on to the parking brake, the theme of leather wrapped around the touch points. It just adds a sense of semi-premiumness to the car, and again you have so much chrome down here, like here on the edge of the gear selector and here on the park brake. Now you also have chrome on the air conditioning knobs as well, and they feel nice to click and nice to press, as well as your direction of air knob does feel very nice to press, and you've got your buttons down there for your AC and recirc. The radio, continuing on to that, has these nice chrome touches on them, and bearing in mind this is a pre-facelift, you do have a double DIN display compared to the single DIN display you get on lower end models, as well as a CD player. Now, not many people will be using a CD player, but if you're a CD fanatic like myself, you'll find these very nice to use, and the sound quality on these speakers is really good. Now, onto all things aside, other than that, you've got very big air vents as well, and they do keep you cool in summer and warm in the winter very well. In addition, because you've got the R-Line, you also get black headlining, and you get lovely, nice feeling seats with massive bolsters, so you do really feel snug in the seat like it's hugging you. They are manually adjustable, as you can see here, and there's also a height adjustment strap on this side here. A bit hard to play around with, but you can see what I mean. Because you've got height adjustable seats, which the R-Line only gets and the GTI only gets, you do lose these map pockets which you would get to stick your belongings in and your maps in the standard Polos, because on the standard Polos the seats are not adjustable height wise, so you do lose the drawer, but in my opinion it's worth it. And compared to most premium semi-premium cars nowadays that are in this class, you get a plastic bit on the front. I don't see that on many new Polos nowadays, or I don't see as much of it compared to this era of Polo. So the quality is really there, and everything feels sturdy. There are a few creaky bits, but there's not a lot of creak compared to cars like the 205 C class, which has that creaky centre console. But you know, I know those cars aren't comparable, but you really do see a sense of quality in the vehicle. Now, the key on this car is quite basic. If I can get it out on my shorts, the key is very basic. It's just your standard VW key of this era. And as you can see, the key's pleased to see me. You've got your lock, boot button and your unlock button, simple stuff, and I've got this key ring myself. It is missing the Volkswagen emblem because that fell off, but yeah, this key is basically shared across the group, so depending on what car you got, depends on the logo you get on the back. And, cool fact, the Bugatti Veyrons and the Bugatti Chirons use this key as their valet key. So I thought I'd add that cool fact in there as well. It just goes into the steering wheel, and then you can twist the key to activate the electronics. Because this car is pre-2014, pre-facelift, you do get a little infotainment basic hands-free system up here, but it's nothing special. It just allows you to manage your phone calls and your music. But yeah, also another few luxuries include vanity mirrors with automatic light on the top, little place to put your parking tickets or your parking invoices, little strap there, and you also get a automatic dimming rear view mirror compared to the standard Polo, which you just get a little lever to flick up. You also get heated side mirrors as well, and they're electrically adjustable on the R-Line trim. In addition, you do get aluminium pedals as well, but we'll show you that in the cinematic shots a little bit later on. Now we'll move on to the back. Now, hopping into the rear of the car is the next thing. So the seat's in my driving position, and as you can see, with the little dent in here for your legs, it is quite comfortable. I'm about nearly 6 foot, so about 5'11". I'm on the tail end of 5 feet. But you can see, for someone who's nearly 6 foot, this is quite comfortable for short trips. But if you are 6 foot or over, you may struggle with it. So just a little bit of advice: if you are 6 foot, get a short driver, I'd say, or sit on the passenger side and get them to move forward. You also do get coat hooks on the side here, which is pretty good. You can hang your little jackets there, which you don't see on many hatchbacks of this size and new ones nowadays. The sporty seats continue in the rear, but you don't get as much bolsterage because obviously it is just a bench seat. But it's good that they have the attention to detail, the same as the front seats. You do get a middle seat, but as you can see, there's no markings on the middle seat because this is meant to look like a 2+2 seater configuration. But you can have the middle seat available if you really need it. If you go towards the headrests, you can actually see that we've also got adjustable headrests, which is pretty good. And I'll show you the practicality bit in a bit. Additionally, you've also got a lovely in-seat pocket for your filming equipment or for an automotive magazine or for magazines of your own taste, whatever floats your boat. And in these little pockets to the side, they're very thin. They probably just about fit a phone, but they're pretty good for storing polo mints, which is always a nice touch. As you can see, sling them in there and give them to your passengers. Now we'll move on to the boot and I'll show you the practicality of this vehicle. So, now moving on to the boot space and the practicality. If we have a little closer look at it, it's got the poppy in the outie VW badge, which you see on most modern VW cars now. And you also get a nice parcel shelf on this car. Note that this parcel shelf is missing one string. It was like that when I got this car, but you can easily buy another string from Volkswagen themselves. In terms of the boot, you have got a bit of a load lip, but on certain models you can get a faux floor, which goes into these little red hooks, and it creates an almost perfect lipless area to load your bags in. Obviously it is a very small load lip, but it is better than this massive well. But then again, you can take it out like I have, and you can have a big well of space in the bottom, which is perfect for storing your bags and perfect for storing your cases for your filming equipment. In addition, over here you've also got a bag storage area to stick your shopping bags or anything like that. So this car is very practical to take to the supermarket on a Saturday afternoon. In addition, I'd say it's very practical, and we're going to put the seats down to put this to the test. So if we just take this parcel shelf out of the vehicle, sling it to the side, and we will get these headrests down and we'll start folding the seats down. In the rear, if we have a look and you come over to the side, you can actually fold these bench seats up to create a flat load area, which is pretty cool. Obviously, just like that, you stick them all forward. Easier said than done, obviously, but let's go to the other side and get it off. And these just face towards the front. Pop the headrest down. These little releases are in here, and this will come down together. And then on this side, this will come down as well, thus creating, including the faux floor, a very, very flat boot area. And as you can see, it's so spacious that even I could sit in here. And you could, if you really needed to, sleep in here. Let's say things got rough, you could just sleep in here. But all in all, it's a very roomy area to be in for your bags, and obviously very practical if you buy the faux floor with Volkswagen. In addition, under this there is a little, I'll move some stuff out of the way, there is a little temporary floor here, and underneath here you'll find your spare tyre, which is pretty good because most cars now come with a little canister of goo. So that's pretty good that you've got the peace of mind of a spare tyre, and you've got a toolkit there if you do need to fit your own spare wheels. So if you've got technical knowledge or mechanic hands, you can easily stick on yourself a new tyre without having to call assistance. You've also got a emergency triangle holder inside the boot. It's kind of hard to show you, but you can see it hopefully. And yeah, all in all, it's pretty practical for a small hatchback, especially knowing that nowadays the small hatchbacks of these days aren't as practical or as innovative. Most of these cars don't even have movable seat bases, so it's pretty cool to see that Volkswagen back in 2012 thought, you know what, let's fit that in to make it more practical. And with a faux floor, it would be seamless. So, we are now inside the Volkswagen Polo R-Line, and the interior is a lovely place to be. Everything about it, the steering wheel feels nice, the doors, they're a bit creaky, but they feel very nice. Everything screams quality. Even if you just bash it, nothing really wriggles around too much. You try and creak the plastic, piano black plastic, nothing creaks that much. Down the client panels, it creaks for ever so slightly, but it's a very nice place to be. Obviously, your water bottle makes, the water bottle here can be practically stored everywhere, you know? In this pocket, it fits very well. I've got a bag of crisps down it all fits very well. Everything's good for a longish journey. My only complaint is the comfort factor of there's no fire support, but you only find fire support on luxury cars like Mercedes S-Class, Audi A8, BMW 7 Series and other higher end cars below those three cars. So you're not going to find high-end features in this car, but for a hatchback, you've got everything you need. You've got one-touch windows, which I'll demonstrate in a bit once we've got the electronics on, and then we'll go for a town drive. So I've got the key here. I'm going to stick it inside the ignition, and now I'm going to flick it over to activate the electronics. As you can see there, everything starts to spring to life. I'm going to show you one-touch windows now. So I can push it down once, and look, voila, one touch. And the rear ones, and every single window in the car, even out of the master switch, they all have good quality, and they all feel nice to use. They all do the one-touch feature up and down, so if I go up again, one touch as well. So you've definitely got a handful of features that you usually find on luxury cars, and most cars that I've seen nowadays don't even have one-touch electronic power windows on this segment. So this car was really ahead of its time for, you know, luxuries that you'd find. In terms of the radio, it is, you know, quite simple to use. Like there's not really much about it. It's just got a few basic buttons, and everything's done through this hands-free kit. But for a car this age, everything does feel quite nice, and this car has aged very well. So now I'll push the brake and the clutch, and I'm now going to start the engine. And as from that sound test before, you heard it was a really good sounding engine, so you can tell this is going to be a good drive. So now I'll stick the car into gear, and we'll now go for our round town driving. Now this car has been designed very well by Volkswagen to include many features that make this car comfortable yet sporty to drive when you do need it, without a dynamic select switch being put in the car. This car's also got auto-locking doors, which is very nice, and a ton of features which makes this car very nice. There's additional ones as well, which I'll mention later on. In addition, you've also got automatic wipers, so the rain sensor will detect rain and it will automatically wipe. Some of the modern hatchbacks of this age don't even have, you know, automatic wipers, and even the new hatchbacks, if you see, don't have automatic wipers as standard. But this car really is ahead of its time in terms of the tech. Now, to drive in low speeds in this car, it is a little bit annoying, as you'll see later, because it is quite sloshy, the gearbox. But when you get to higher speeds, 30 and above, it does feel nice to drive, honestly. And we are just driving gently now at 30 miles an hour because that's our town limits. We're in a suburban bit right now, but we'll be getting towards town in a minute. But you can see that it's quite comfortable to drive, yet at the same time it's very dynamic. And once we get through the town driving, we'll go on the back roads and unleash the vehicle's inner beast. Up a hill, it does really well as well, and you don't feel like it's going to stall. In fourth gear, it does very well. In terms of the suspension, it's got the same suspension from the Polo GTI. It's just they've just got the 1.2 litre TSI engine instead. Same gearbox as the Polo GTI manual. It's also got a sports clutch, so the clutch is relatively heavier the lift, but it does give you a sense of feel that you've actually unleashed the clutch and that you're not going to stall it. So over a standard clutch, you do get a lot more responsiveness, and for a car like this, especially if you learn to drive, it's very nice to have a sports clutch because then you can get used to a harder clutch. Whereas if you've learned in a non-sports clutch, sometimes when you get a sports clutch, it does feel kind of a shock to drive in. And I remember my driving instructor's car was a Ford Fiesta without a sports clutch, so it did feel very, very light, and I did stall it a couple of times. Bearing in mind I got into this car first before into our driving instructor's car. So I'd say if you're going onto a car with a lighter clutch later on, or you have family members with a light clutch in their car, just be careful because this car has got a sports clutch, but it does get used to sports clutches. Now, round town here, it is a bit medium flow traffic, but this car drives very nicely for once you're in gear, and it does feel quite comfortable. You don't feel like you're floating on air, you can still feel the bumps and lumps, but over certain other cars of this class, this is quite a smooth ride. And bearing in mind this is an R-Line, not the standard Polo. If you want the comfort factor, I'd say get a standard Polo. But if you want the dynamicness and you don't mind having slightly rougher suspension, I recommend this Polo. It really is a good car. Again, the gearbox It's very, very nice to use. The gear ratios are right. My only issue is when you do pull off from first gear, it does rev up really quickly, and then you change to like second gear and it does feel quite awkward. But after you overcome second gear, you really do feel the ease of use of this car. It's really easy to use. And even in stop-start traffic, yeah, the sports clutch is a bit of a pain in the neck because it does make you press down harder, but at least you always get a sense of feedback from the clutch, which is always good. So, you know, we'll wait around a little bit, see how the traffic lights go, and then once we're out of here, we'll continue on. So we are now exiting the town, and we will now push the car onto some motorways in a minute. We're just going to head towards the dual carriageway joining road, actually, not a motorway, my bad. And yeah, we're just going to be doing some, you know, dual carriageway driving, or for you American lot, highway driving. So yeah, if you know, because you could be having people from all over the world watch these videos, so got to include American slang as well. Anyway, we're now going towards our dual carriageway of choice, and we will now be testing in a minute what it's like. And because this car's got cruise control, because it's an R-Line, you get cruise control standard, we will test out what the cruise control is like, and if I think it's worth getting an R-Line because of the cruise control, partly. The roads in the UK are a bit bumpy, so you can also feel the bumps, grooves more, and you know, if you do get near a pothole or a very light pothole, you do feel it quite a lot in the suspension, because the suspension is very responsive, and this car does take a lot of the beatings of the road because it's sportier. You do feel it a lot more throughout the cabin. Cabin noise at 40 miles an hour, it's alright, but because the rear tyres on this car are slightly misshaped because they're stepping slightly nearly at the end of their life, you can hear a lot of tyre noise from the rear. Other than that, the front tyres are quite quiet. The cabin noise is like, it's medium, I'd say. It's not too loud, like you've got windows open or you've got like an old-fashioned car. It's got a bit of sound deadening, I must admit, but it's not like a Mercedes or a BMW where you've got tons of sound deadening around that, because it's not in that segment. But for a small car, it is quite quiet, and you can also hear the turbo spooling every now and then. Once you get towards like speeds, again, the gearbox is engaging the drive, but you'll have to experience that more on back road driving, because this is where this car really is at home, on back roads. I know it's only a 1.2, but you'll see how much of a beast this car is, obviously within speed limits. And another cool thing about this car is you can actually drive it very, very fun style of driving, and you can drive it dynamically at non-license losing speeds. So that's the best thing about it. Unlike other cars that are slightly more powerful, or a lot more powerful, and you can't drive in fun unless you're at license losing speeds, which obviously you do not want to do. So this car does give you the fun, and I wouldn't say this car's slow, I wouldn't say this car's quick, but it is quick for a first car, if we're talking about all the options you can get insured on. And I'm insured on this without a black box, which is quite a miracle, to be honest, because I thought they'd be ripping my legs off for it. But in reality, they were all right with me driving this car without a black box. Ever since I passed, I've driven it black box free, and this is, well, the second year of me owning this car. So now we're going to get onto our dual carriageway of choice. We're going to get up to speed, we're going to get into more higher revs, and open the taps a little bit. Just listening to that engine, it sounds very nice, even from the interior. Now I'm going to pull on into the next lane, get into 6th gear, which is the maximum gear on this, and we'll now stick on the cruise control. So the car with the cruise control on, it's not adaptive cruise control because this car isn't part of the segment where adaptive cruise control would be acceptable, but for a car this size and for a car in this segment, regular cruise control is alright. It's pretty good. It's quite a luxury for a first car. Not many first cars have cruise control, most of them have speed limiters. This car does have a speed limiter, though I do not recommend using it, because setting up the speed limiter on this car is a lot more of a play around than actually using cruise control. Cruise control is on the stalk, but the speed limiter is done through the system with 2 buttons in the dashboard, so it is very fiddly. So I wouldn't recommend the speed limiter. We are going to be getting off very soon, but at cruising speeds, I'm about 75 miles an hour, which is within the percentage of the speed limit. And at 75 miles an hour, you can easily overtake traffic. And if you needed to overtake traffic for, and you would had a truck behind you, this car's quick enough to get you safely out of the way. So it's not like so slow that it's dangerously slow. No, though it's not fast enough for it to be considered a hot hatch. I'd kind of say it's like a warm hatch, because it's not slow, it's not too fast, but it's quite quick for what it is. and bearing in mind because it's a Polo, it's small, it does handle quite well. Whereas if this engine was in a Golf, it probably wouldn't handle as well because it's more of a bigger car, and obviously the Golf's more comfort based and more legroom based, obviously. Road noise, you can hear a lot of wind noise, but that is what it is. It's just from the mirrors mostly, and most of the sills around the windows do stop any noise creating any annoying sounds. Though occasionally you do get an annoying sound from the sill here, like a little buzzing sound, but it's only every now and then, and it depends what speed you are as well. So we're now getting towards the back lanes in a minute. We're just going to turn off the road now and head towards where the back lanes are situated. So once we get to the back lanes, I'll catch up with you over there. So we're now on the back roads. It's about 40 miles an hour, but I'll do some fun driving. We'll send it around these corners. So the bolsters do hug you in the seat really well, I must admit. If we slow down again and then speed up, you can really feel when you go around tight corners like this, the bolsters do keep you in well. And because it's a flat bottom steering wheel, if you're turning a bend, you can keep your hand on the steering wheel without it slipping around. So it is a very, very nice handling car. It does feel very fun to drive, and around this corner especially, it's very fun to drive. And you're not at license losing speeds. That's the most important thing about this. Now the guy in front's a bit slower than I am, but we can get over that. And the engine, I don't know if you can hear it as much on camera, but in person, it's like a symphony of sound. It really is. It's like an orchestra playing. It's beautiful. It's not the loudest engine, it's not the quietest engine, but for a first car, it really is nice. And yeah, you can hear a bit of tyre noise, but if you really just focus your hearing on the engine itself and the turbo spooling up, everything about it is just, oh, it's lovely. It's music to my ears, literally. And even if you have the windows cracked down, I'm not going to have them cracked down because it would interfere with the microphone, but when you do have the windows cracked down on the back lane, it honestly is really nice. But you can hear it from in here perfectly fine once you get to a higher rev range. In terms of ride comfort for the passenger, I've had no complaints from my passenger about it, and I've taken my dad in it and done dynamic driving with him, and he has no problem with it either. So it really is a comfortable car. All I'd say is if you're in the back and you're doing dynamic driving, you will not be as happy as the front passengers because the bolsters are a lot thinner compared. But yeah, the roads around here are very nice, and this car's really good for Europe because Europe has a lot more back roads. In America, I don't think this car would be as good, but obviously their car market's completely different. So seeing a Polo is like seeing a Porsche here, very rare. But yeah, it goes to 60 relatively quick. I'll let you know my 0 to 60 time a little bit later on when we get on a piece of road that's suitable for it, and I'll have my friend time it. Yeah, I can't afford specialist timing here, so just got to do what we've got to do for now. But it really does press and go, and because it's front wheel drive as well, I know it's not a four wheel drive car, so you can't really say the same thing about front wheel drive cars, but because it's a front wheel drive car, you can really, like, it's like a rocket, it's like a missile. You can guide it and it will take you to where you guide it. So, you know, and the brakes, they're very good. You need to have the GTI brakes on here because obviously if you had the regular brakes and the drums on the regular Polo, you'd probably end up setting them on fire or making them red hot. Whereas on this car, you really need the beefier brakes from the GTI. Obviously all R-Lines come with the GTI style brakes as standard. The only thing you miss out obviously is the calipers in red and the GTI text. Other than that, it's basically like an unpainted version of the GTI brakes. And I'd say this car, I wouldn't say it's as fun, I wouldn't say you can compare it to a GTI because obviously it's lower down the model range, but if you can't afford a GTI or you can't get insured on the GTI, this is a perfect alternative, honestly. And for a nice day like this, you really can appreciate it. You really can. Anyway, I'll get back to you when we're on a little bit more of a fun road. So we're now on the slightly funner roads. I'm now going to floor it now and see how it goes. And it really does pick up speed. It's literally a pocket rocket. And it does handle so well. Especially on straight roads, it's quite good. I know you want to kind of enjoy the fun on bendy roads, but if you were in America and this car was available to you as a rental car, or you had one, be quite good on straight roads, but I wouldn't recommend it as much in stop-start traffic. So America, maybe not. But for Europe's roads, this car is very nice. It's not too big. It's, you know, small enough. You know, I wouldn't say it's too small, because obviously if you had an up, it's too small in my opinion. I'm nearly 6 foot and that car would be too uncomfortable for me. A Golf, if you want more comfort, you can find a Golf for a similar price. I paid £5 for this, used, 2 owners, so it wasn't too bad for me. But if you wanted to get a Golf instead and had more comfort, you can get one for a similar price at a lower spec level. But if you want the higher spec Polo, I'd recommend this over the Golf personally, just because you get the higher spec, you can show off to your mates, and because you've got a sportier looking car than a base model Golf. But a base model Golf is a good alternative if you do prefer the comfortable drive. My only issue is with the Golf, if you have the 1.2 litre engine in the Golf, I would say it does feel a little bit underpowered because it is too small of an engine for a Golf. With a Golf, you want at least a 1.4. But for a Polo, a 1.2, especially this one, is more than enough. If you get newer Polos, you can get an R-Line newer Polo, but just bear in mind it hasn't got this engine exclusively for it. It's got a 3-cylinder turbocharged engine instead, which in my opinion isn't as fun as this 4-cylinder one, and it doesn't have as much power compared. But for this car, I'd say this is perfect, and it's enough for a first-time driver for them to drive safely, but at the same time have a bit of fun when their parents aren't around. Obviously, again, you can't drive at a license losing speeds. It's got cruise control. It's quite comfortable to drive for short to medium distances. My only complaint is if you're going on anything above an hour, be prepared for some discomfort because your legs do ache a lot. And this seat is not in the furthest back position, but 2 more clicks from here will be the furthest back. But if you go 1 click for me, I can't reach into the clutch pedal, so it's really important you can depress the clutch fully, so you do have to put up with a bit of discomfort on the legs. But if you do sit really far back in the car, you can feel comfortable, but again, you can't depress the clutch, so it's only good if you've got really long legs. But I have got over average legs and length legs, so it is alright for me, but I do find it very uncomfortable when I drive to Sussex to see my grandparents, which is 2 hours from here. So it is a bit uncomfortable for that, but other than that, I don't really have much to complain about this car. It's a fast little car, it's quite nippy, it's quite fun to drive, and I'm now going to take it down one more road, and then we'll get towards the verdict and my favourite features and my least favourite things about this car as well. So we'll kind of get towards the verdict towards the end. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and you know, press that notification bell to stay tuned for more of my videos, because I want to do a lot more car reviews and to show you guys what I can review, and hopefully it's relatable to any of you guys who are my age. I'm 18 now, but if you're 17, you're looking for a first car, I hope this review's helped you, and hopefully it makes your mind change. Obviously, if you want this same car but cheaper, I would recommend the Skoda Fabia Monte Carlo or the Seat Ibiza equivalent. I'm not too sure on that totally, but if you have any questions, just ask me in the comments and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. But I would say that the Polo is very, very trendy compared to the Ibiza and the Fabia of the age, and also you get the newer tech and you're not paying ridiculous amounts of money for an Audi, because the Audi A1 is very overpriced in my opinion. I wouldn't choose it because it's overpriced. But if you do want the Audi because it's got the better technology for this age of car, again, it's still a good pick. It's just going to cost you a premium for a good example with low miles and low owners. This one does have high miles, but it does have only 2 owners who've done motorway miles. So I have peace of mind that the clutch isn't worn. The clutch is still good to use, and we're going to go on one more set of back roads just to let you guys enjoy it. But yeah, all in all, I would say I'd recommend this car. Anyway, enjoy the back road driving for a little bit, and then I'll take you straight to the verdict of this video. Hello everybody, I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. Be sure to like and subscribe and check the description out, because obviously I've left my socials in there for you to have a look at. Before we end the video, I am going to go through some of my favourite bits about it, and then I'll go through the verdict of the car. So let's go through the favourite bits I like about it. Firstly, the aero kit itself, with the front diffuser imitation, the more aggressive wheels, which are 16-inch alloys that look nicer, the side skirts that are beefed up, and if you come to the back with me, you'll also see that the spoiler is very nice and the rear diffuser is very nice. Obviously all imitation, because it isn't going to add any downforce to the car, but for an R-Line Polo, it makes the Polo look a lot nicer than the regular one. Also, that massive exhaust pipe compared to the downslanted one on the standard Polo really does help the aggression, and it does beat most AMG line models of Mercedes with the fake exhaust, so at least you've got a real exhaust on a small hatchback. And it does sound good as well from previously. Now, my next few things I'd like to say that are my favourite features are on the interior. Firstly, before we get into the interior, I'll show you this feature, which is the windows up and down feature with the key. So you just hold down the unlock button and all the windows come down, which is very good. This is standard on all R-Line and GTI models. You can get them coded into pre-facelift non-R-Line models and anything below that. And then when you lock the car, the windows go back up again, and obviously the whole car stays locked. So that is a really good feature for summer drivers in the UK if you want to cool the car down or just close it off at the end of the day without having to put the windows up before you shut the engine off. So it really is a good feature and I really do like it. Now, heading on to the interior itself. It has a lot of nice features that I'm in love with. First feature, I like the heated mirrors, they're very good. And the fact that they're electronically adjustable compared to the non-R-Line Polo really does add a sense of premiumness to it. Additionally, my next favourite feature is obviously the rear windows being one-touch powered compared to the manual ones on the standard Polos. Meaning if you have pesky rear passengers, just lock them off. So another great feature that's a must-have in my eyes. Interior-wise, I do like the leather-covered steering wheel that's flat-bottomed, the leather gear knob and the leather parking brake. Chrome everywhere, another good thing about it. The dials are very nice, but if you prefer sunken in dials, I recommend the facelift model. Infotainment is a bit old, and you do have to have this thing, which is a con, because it's good, but it's a con of the car because every time you press a button, it has like a 3-second delay at least, so it's quite slow. And if you prefer the infotainment upgrades, go for the facelift model. The microphone as well in the hands-free kit isn't as good as the microphone in the facelift Polos, which you get as standard for the phone call feature. So in my eyes, if you want better infotainment, you go for the facelift. If you want this R-Line and put up with the old infotainment, just go for the pre-facelift. In addition, the pedals are very nice, and obviously they've got a nice aluminium flare to it. And the R-Line design just really continues on. Perforation, everything about it's nice. Now, my least favourite parts is, firstly, the steering wheel is too close to here, and there's a lot of space between the door. So you do feel like you're sandwiched against the middle. And the pedals are offset, so you do feel very twisted at the wheel when you're driving, which takes time to get used to. Another issue is with the legs, there's no thigh support, so your legs do sit awkwardly up, and if you're on the brake and clutch, you do have an awkward bit of discomfort, which ain't great. But on the bright side, you do have an area where you can put your foot where the wheel well is, so you do have an area to rest when you're in cruise control. But it does suck that everything feels a bit offset, especially the steering wheel and the pedals. Seats are mega comfortable, I love them. I love the fact you get Alcantara on the sides, but if you come around here into the inner bolster on my side, you can see there is a bit of wear. That's the only common issue with these cars. You do get a wear on the bolster and the outer side from when it's been used so much. Secondly, another good thing but a bad thing is this mirror is dimmable. It's very good, but my only peeve about it is that it's very loose after some time, because obviously after it gets hot and cold a lot, it does get very loose. And because the woman who owned it before was using her makeup instead of the vanity mirrors, you can tell why it's loose. She kept moving it around. Now, I do like the sun blinds with the vanity mirrors built in, and I do like the fact that you can detach that and put it to the side for maximum protection. So all in all, I think it's pretty good. It is a nice car, don't get me wrong, but there are going to be cons with every car. No car's perfect in my eyes. Every car's perfect in its own way, but it does have they do have their disadvantages at each car. Now, before I head off, I'd like to thank my cameraman Charlie for filming. I'll leave his socials in the description below, and all the cinematic shots are also done by him, so be sure to check out his Instagram page. He has some car shots on there. And yeah, if you have any questions about this car, please comment in the comment section below and I'll answer to the best of my ability. Now, before I go, just remember to check out the description for all the social media links, and I also want to highlight the Easter egg of this video. So, the first Easter egg of this video is of course the tuber Polos, which can be seen around the vehicle. You can see these in the glove box, in the cinematic shots, you can see it in the centre console, you can see it in the pockets in the rear. When I did the practicality test, this is the Easter egg. This car is a bit like the original Polo Mint, you know? The Audi A1's a bit like the Fruity Polo, and the Skoda Fabia and Seat Leon are like, no, Seat Ibiza even, are like the Spearmint Polos. So this Polo mints kind of go with the car, if you know what I mean. And it was just a cool little Easter egg I added in. So yeah, always nice to have a little Easter egg. Got to make your videos fun. And did you count how many R-Line badges there were? Well, if you said 6, you are correct. If you follow me, you have 1 on the grille over here. You have 1 on the driver's and passenger side skirt, so 2. You have 2 in the seat headrests, so 4. And obviously 1 on the steering wheel. So 1 on the steering wheel and 1 on the front is 6. So yes, and also because it's a 6R, it's kind of funny. There's 6Rs and it's a 6R Polo. I know it's not relevant, but I thought I'd add it in there. And yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Comment down your favourite part of the video below and let me know, would you buy this Polo? Personally, I'd rate it an 8 out of 10, and I'd say shortlist it. There are better cars out there than the Polo, and you could get a Volkswagen Golf for the same price at a lower spec if you want the comfort factor. But if you don't mind having the Polo and being at slight discomfort, this car is perfect. And because it's got the shared platforms of the Audi A1, Seat Ibiza and Skoda Fabia, you do get a lot of cheap parts in total. You could use a Skoda part number on an Audi A1, for example, an oil filter, and it'd turn out cheaper than the Audi oil filter. So yeah, and also same for brakes as well. If you can find the equivalent of a Skoda, you can get the brakes really cheaply. My only issue with the brakes on these cars, this is genuine Volkswagen brakes, and they do create a lot of brake dust within the space of a week to 2 weeks. So that's my only issue with the car, other than, you know, the other ones I mentioned. That's also an issue. But if you don't mind the brake dust and you don't mind the problems that this car comes with, or the issues that come with this car is really a fun car to drive, really appreciable, and really does stand out and gets a lot of attention. It's really an eye grabber. Anyway, enough of my waffling. I will now let you go. Just don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.